Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Purple Door podcast, the Friends Rewatch Pod. I'm your host, Alasdair, along with my good friend DeeAnn. DeeAnn, how are you today?
Oh, as always, Al, I'm doing great. How are you?
Yeah, doing very well indeed. We both have the day off school today. It's President's Day here in the States, and both of our school districts were nice enough to give us the day off. So we get to record 2 days in a row, which is kind of fun.
Yep. Well, and technically we are off. It's a bad weather day. And so because
Ah,
we had enough hours in like in our calendar built in, whenever we
right.
had those snow days not too long ago, it
Yes.
we didn't have to go today. So it's
Very nice. Well, there's
excellent.
talk of very cold weather. I think is it Tuesday night into Thursday, possible rain on the Tuesday. I think
Yeah,
we'll have school all week, but
I do
some
too.
people are keeping their fingers crossed. So we'll see what
Well,
happens there.
well, they need to
But
calm down and not put that out there in the universe.
that's right, because we'll just have to make up the time elsewhere. So I'm okay with it, actually. We've already got a 4 day week and we get to record a podcast on a Monday morning. So
There
I
you
think
go.
I think we've already got a wonderful week ahead of us.
Absolutely.
But today we are looking at the one with the monkey. We get to meet the infamous Marcel for the first time. But before we get into that, of course, we're going to play Bamboozled, and I've got some fun questions for you, and I'm sure you do for me.
Of course.
Yeah,
There.
I think I have a
Seven.
grand total of seven, but it never ends up being seven because I'm
Right.
sure we will have some duplicated.
Yep. And I have eight, and I am positive that
Yes.
we will have some.
I
Okay.
love it. Well, I tell you what, you went first yesterday. I'll go first today. We'll see what happens.
Sounds great.
Um, what is the character that's on David's shirt? Both times he kisses Phoebe, but you can only really see it in one.
Okay. So that's my question number six. That would be Marvin the Martian.
I love Marvin the Martian for no particular reason. I can only remember seeing one episode of one cartoon with him in it, but I
Uh-huh.
just love his voice. I don't know who does it. I love Marvin the Martian. And I thought it was just the first time, but when he kisses Phoebe again, his shirt, his overshirt or whatever, is buttoned up, but you can still see the top of Marvin the Martian's head under the shirt, which
Nice
I just
catch.
loved.
That's a nice
Yes.
catch because I did not notice that he was wearing it in both of the scenes, but I definitely noticed good old Marvin the Martian.
Yep,
And
a different overshirt, but same T-shirt underneath.
how funny. Well, I don't know. Those Looney Tune characters have a special place in my heart for sure.
Right, right. I love it. All right, your first question for me.
All right. So, what is the name of Ross's friend that gives him Marcel?
I wouldn't have remembered except for Phoebe's funny line right afterwards. So I believe I didn't write this down, but I believe it's Bethel.
It is Bethel.
It's
Yes.
a
Good
great
job,
name.
Al.
And I will tell you, when Kate and I watched this, she said, I bet Deanne asks you what the name is. So another point to Kate.
Always. Kate is the
That's
master.
funny. She's got this figured out. Well, I tell you, in the opening scene, do you know what color the tinsel is that's around the door? They've decorated for Christmas, and there's
Oh.
tinsel hanging around the frame of the door of the girls' apartment.
Is it red and silver?
It is red and silver. Well done. Well done. You didn't look confident. You didn't look confident,
I
but you
was
got it.
not. I was not
Yes.
confident at all. Okay, so if we're talking about colors, what color are all the employees at Central Perk wearing whenever Phoebe's doing her concert?
So it's funny you bring that up because I didn't write this down at all. But when we rewatched, we watched it last night and then we watched it again this morning, and I did happen to say to Kate, "Man, there's a lot of red." So I'm going to go with red. Everybody seemed to be wearing red,
they
including Gunther, who I always look for now because
yes,
you said how many times he's uncredited. So
yeah.
thanks to this podcast and you, I always look for Gunther in the background.
And he was back there with his little tie and his red button-up
He,
fancy shirt.
indeed he was. Indeed he was.
Yeah.
So, how many mothers did new songs? Sorry, how many new songs did Phoebe write about her mother's suicide?
12. And one about
12
a
indeed.
snowman, which
Right.
actually ended up being about her mother's suicide. So I feel like the correct
Indeed.
answer is truly 13. But
Yes. So that's what I would think that, and that was 12 or 13 we would have accepted because,
oh.
yeah, that discussion was had here as well.
Ding 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 ding. All
Yes.
right. Who was the actress that Max and David were talking about whenever David was talking about how beautiful Phoebe was?
That would be Daryl Hannah,
Yes.
who I only know from Splash. That's the only one I think. I mean, maybe I've seen her in other things, but
Yeah.
watching Splash as a child was sort of a core memory. I remember
Oh,
seeing
yeah.
that film. Quite an iconic movie at the time.
Absolutely. That was one of the sleepover movies for like,
Right.
and I had a friend who had a fancy stereo and her dad could make the music come through the speaker. So you know at the beginning that woolly bully, woolly bully.
Yes.
Yes. And so that was always like so fun and so cool to dance around to
That is
that.
pretty fancy. I like it.
Okay.
Well, let's see. Oh, I've got one question, but I'm saving it for the last one. But what nickname does Max give Phoebe? Max, the other scientist guy, he gives Phoebe a nickname and he calls her it twice.
Well, I
I
know at
give you
one point he calls her Yoko because he's
that's the answer I'm
talking
looking
about
for.
Yoko Ono. Oh,
That's what I'm
okay.
looking for. We'll go with Yoko, which I loved. Yes.
Okay. Nice.
Well done.
All right. This one I think is tricky and I'm curious if you'll get it or not.
Right.
So, in this episode, there are 3 movies that are named. Do you know what they are?
Goodness me. No, but Splash.
Yes, Splash is definitely one of them.
And then they mention another movie because she has like a negative quality, and I
Uh-huh.
was not familiar with that movie.
Okay. That
I'm
one was
trying to
Wall
see
Street.
Wall Street. Okay, I didn't know that one.
Okay.
Then can you give? I'm not going to get it right, but can you give me a hint as to when this other movie was mentioned?
Phoebe's sitting on the couch and she's talking about David.
Yes, an officer and a gentleman.
Very good. Nice.
Yes, because I forgot about that, but I did look it up to see when it was released, which we
Yes.
can mention when we talk about the episode. That was a good question. I like that one. What two objects does David remove gently from the table prior to sweeping it for Phoebe?
Okay. So one of them is a microscope.
Yes,
Yes, like the double eye microscope. And then the other one, it looks like a laptop of some sort, but it's
that's what I've
clunky
got
and
written down. Looks like an old clunky laptop, like a first generation sort of
yeah, but it was much
something or other.
smaller than what I would have imagined. But yeah, okay. So ding
So
ding
not
ding
not to,
ding.
we're doing well. Frasier had an episode in the mid 90s, I think, and I just remember it because he had a laptop, and again it was quite chunky, which you would sort of expect. But again, the screen was very small because it was really just like a word processor rather than having much. So
Ah,
and it was to me it looked very similar to that was in that episode.
okay.
It did have a quite a small screen, but well done. You got both parts of the
Yes.
question.
All right.
Yes.
What color are David's glasses?
God, that's a great question. I have no idea, so we're going to go with it's nothing too bright, and I don't think you would have asked me if it was black or gray. So we'll go with blue.
Red.
Red. Oh,
Also red.
I thought I would have noticed it if it was red. That's a great question.
Yeah. There's some
Um,
pretty uh I don't know, like noticeable glasses, but I don't know. They seem very fashionable for
right.
him, but I don't know. I like him.
Ah, shame. Yeah, I would have thought I might have noticed, but yeah, that's a great question. A nice, straightforward, not necessarily simple. What's the name of Joey's date? The woman he brings, and she brings her
Mhm.
children.
Yep, yep, yep. And she's wearing the blue dress, and she ends up going off with Max, and it's very. Is it Sandy or
It's Sandy indeed.
it is
Yes, it
Sandy?
is.
Awesome.
Like,
Okay.
you're pulling some of these out from some depths of knowledge.
Seriously, or some
Yes.
random. I don't even know why. All right. What
Yes.
animal bites Chandler or has bitten Chandler?
Yep. He says it when he's trying to convince, or he says, ask that lady to kiss him at midnight. It was a peacock.
It was a
It was
peacock.
a
Nice.
peacock.
Yes.
It's funny, you have to kind of go through the scene in your head. And then it goes.
Uh huh.
um, what food did Rachel make for the party? She
So
asked Monica if people are eating it.
okay. So it's a dip. It's
Ye-
dip. But I was
yes,
curious if it because I think like Janice says something about the dip, but I think it was artichoke dip. So I
I
don't
have
know if
written
those are
down.
the same or not.
I have written down dip, possibly the artichoke dip that Janice is eating. So
Nice.
exactly.
Man, we
Now
need
we're
to
on a
practice
roll.
this.
We know this episode. All right. Do you have any more for me?
I don't. I'm all done.
All right. I've got two more, and they're both numerical ones. So
Ooh.
I think the first one again is a straightforward question. The second one's going to be fun. So how long is Max and David's grant to Minsk for?
3 years.
It is 3 years.
Nice.
This question comes to you courtesy of Kate.
Oh.
Um, she watched the episode. Well, we watched it a third time purely for this question.
Whoa.
How many times does the word kiss or a variation of it, like kissed or
Oh
kissing,
my
get
gosh.
said in the entire episode? Now, that doesn't include things like making out, just kiss, kissed, or kissing.
Wow.
Yeah,
A
yes, yes.
lot because I mean just in that last scene where Chandler's jumping around going kiss 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 me somebody
That's
kiss
what
me
brought it up.
and
Yes.
oh my gosh I
We'll
27.
give you, it's a little less. We're going with 15. 15
Okay.
times. Yeah.
Wow.
And
That's a
yes.
lot. Through the
Yeah,
whole
that was it.
episode.
Yeah, we rewatched the entire thing just to get that question. So
That's
so there
awesome.
you go. 15, you'll always remember it now if you ever see it again.
That's true.
But yeah, that was a good one. I feel like we both did we're not keeping score, but I feel we both did pretty well with
Yes, we
that round
we
of bamboozled. But let's get stuck into the episode. We start off, I believe, in the girl's apartment, and Ross enters with Marcel on his shoulders. And as you brought up in Bamboozled, the lady's name was Bethel. I think, did she rescue it from a lab?
yes.
Is that right?
Yes, because that's what you're thinking
Yes,
Phoebe's going to say how sad about or
that's
that's
right.
terrible or whatever her response to him being in a lab and you think she's saying like that's so sad that
That's
he
right.
was that it's that anybody would name their child Bethel. So I'm sorry to all
Bethel.
the Bethels out there.
That's
I
right.
like
I
it.
don't. I think it's like an older name that's kind of beautiful. Like
Oh
I'd
yeah.
be down for a Bethel.
Like Fred
Um,
or George.
like Fred or George. If only we knew a Fred or George, a classic name. Now, it does come up later in a later thing that Ross knows that keeping a monkey in the city is not exactly legal. So it does kind of surprise me that he's just walking around with it on his shoulder. And he obviously knows he shouldn't have a monkey as a pet, but he
Mhm.
doesn't seem to care too much. He's happy. He's got a hole in his heart from where Carol had left. So I guess we're all right with it. I guess we get to know Marcel, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about Marcel once we finish the episode review. But then we go to the coffee shop and Phoebe and her 12 songs about her mother and the one supposedly snowman song.
Wait, before we go
Yes.
there, remember
Yes.
whenever he's talking along and he says that it's path and he's like
Oh,
pathic. That's Sanskrit for pathic. And so I was
yes.
like, what does that even mean? So I started Googling like Pathic and then Sanskrit and
Yeah.
because I had no frame of reference for that. And it really doesn't like Sanskrit is
Sanskrit's a written language, right? An
it
ancient written language?
it is or it is also just it's a technical language
Okay.
or it is a language to substitute something else. So it's just something he randomly made up.
Okay, because in my head, Sanskrit is kind of like hieroglyphics or something, like they would
Uh-huh.
find in pyramids. And I could be completely wrong, but that's where my mind goes. So you're right; it doesn't quite make sense.
Yeah.
But I guess he's panicking and trying
Oh
to
yeah. Well,
cover up the fact.
it is so funny because they all look at each other like, of what's he
Right.
about to say about all of us that are of a certain age and have a roommate.
Well, they're all mid-20s in New York City. I think having a roommate shows you're already on the right path to
I
me, like
I've
at that
I've
stage.
had plenty of roommates before I got my permanent one, you know. But yeah, I
Right.
don't. I think that though that's also very telling about Monica and Rachel, the way that they were raised, and that it's everything is a certain way. Like you
True.
have this
That's
certain way you
yeah,
act,
a
a
path.
certain way that you know you're supposed to do all the things.
Right, and yeah, maybe sharing an apartment with somebody or other people isn't part of that,
Mhm.
upper class plan. That's a very good point. I'd forgotten about the Sanskrit. You're absolutely right. But yeah, we go over to Central Park, and yeah, that this the songs. Poor old Phoebe, bringing everybody down. But I wanted to talk to you about Santa not get, or sorry, Joey not getting the Santa job, but then he gets the job as one of the helpers. And I was going to ask you if you'd ever had a seasonal job, and then I remembered I already know the answer.
Yeah, I actually just recently had a seasonal job.
Yes,
Yeah. So, whenever I was in college, I worked at the mall in a department store, and so that but that wasn't seasonal. That was all year long. But we had seasonal things that came up. But then most
right.
recently, I was an elf at a local theme park, and it was so much
Yes,
fun. It was amazing. So, but I didn't get cool shoes like that. I actually had started off with heels that killed my feet, then changed into boots
right.
that also killed my feet. So I bought inserts for them, and I got to wear those until the last 2 days because the heels of one of the singers broke. So she got my boots with my inserts, and I got these
Ah,
ugly man shoes to go with my
right.
beautiful dress, but whatever.
Oh dear. Whatever. You still got to be an elf. That's pretty
Yes,
fa
yeah,
that's
I
fantastic.
did. I was a
Yes.
delightful, sparkly elf, and it was wonderful.
That's awesome. I don't think I've ever had a seasonal job. I hadn't really thought about this till we started talking. Like you, I've
Now,
worked yeah.
go ahead. Well, talk through that, and then I'm going to remind you of something.
Okay. Yes, well, I mean, I've worked retail, so I've got, there's more hours to be had in November and December. What are
Mhm.
you going to remind me of?
Well, Al, I know that you may not have gotten paid, but I have seen some pictures of you in a Santa suit going
I have.
places.
I
Mhm.
have been Santa once or twice. So my dad was Santa for decades for local nursery schools, and then he hung up his beard and his boots, and then I got them, and I've played Santa here for several kids in various situations. So that would be seasonal volunteer work. You're
Mm,
exactly right.
yeah, I
Yes,
think
yeah. Now,
so.
now I'll tell you, I'll dive out very quickly onto a story. you may know this story, but one of the first times I did it, we had to drive, I don't know, 10 or 15 miles to this kid's house. The parents had done like a silent auction, and Santa and his elf, Kate, were going to show up at their house with like drinks and cookies and read stories. So the money went to our school, and so we did that. And we were driving and Kate said, "Oh, I'd really like to go by Starbucks." And I'm driving fully dressed as Santa. And I'm like, I really don't want to go through the drive through at Starbucks and it becomes a big production and suddenly I'm the center of attention and I don't want any of that. So she said that we could park the car and she would go in. So fantastic. So actually, it was really, really busy. It was a week or two before Christmas. And so I just pulled up in front of the door and I said, I'll just drive around and pick you back up. She gets out the car, she goes in, somebody backs into my truck. So,
No!
so now everyone was fine and it just dented the bumper. Like it was, he was leaving his parking spot. So it was
Right.
going very slowly. But I have to then get out, exchange insurance information. The guy's backed into Santa's sleigh. People are taking pictures of Santa, swapping insurance information outside the Starbucks. The worst possible situation. I'm like, I don't even care. I'll replace the bumper myself. I just don't want to get out. But what do you do?
Right.
And I guess it's just like, jumping in feet first into your fears. I just didn't
Yeah.
like being the center of attention dressed as Santa. But looking back, it was pretty funny.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
we
And,
just couldn't believe it.
and what a story. And then, you remember that time I hit Santa in the Starbucks parking lot?
That was the guy who was like, I can't believe I just backed my car into Santa. It was really very, very funny. He was a good sport. And we exchanged information, but I texted him later and said, "Look, don't even worry about it. It's a 20-year-old car with bumps and scratches and bruises, and he barely touched it." I was like, I'm not doing anything. Merry Christmas." And he was a nice, nice guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's I guess that was a bit of a part-time job.
I feel like that counts. Just bringing
I think
joy
so. I
and
think so. Well, Rachel, she starts to ask about everyone's New Year's plans, and they all groan. Chandler's decided that they should have a pact: no dates, and just dinner for
Mhm.
New Year. Um, which again speaks to the Chandler we've come to know and love. But at that point, then Phoebe starts singing the song that we think is about the snowman, and maybe she thinks it is about the snowman, but very quickly goes back to her mother and her head in the oven, unfortunately. And
Mhm.
then these two mysterious men start talking very loudly. The noisy boys,
Yes,
as she
noisy
calls
boys, noisy boys.
noisy boys, David and Max. I got to say that I love Max's description of Phoebe. It's very heartfelt. Sorry, David's description. It's
Yeah.
very heartfelt. Like,
Yes.
yeah, and then then the way he says, then you started yelling. Like, it's just a brilliant introduction to this character.
Mhm. And you can't help but just love him. You know?
Right,
Just
immediately.
he's so like just taken by her and just I don't know, so sweet. He's like
Yeah,
luminous with a delicate grace. And then he started yelling at us.
yeah,
But
it's so well
but
done.
but yeah, it's just so sweet. So sweet.
It is, and you can tell he's not the kind of guy that does this often.
Mm,
He's not. It's not his forte in life. He's a science guy, and he was
yes.
very nervous while he did it. But
Yep.
good on him, I say, for taking that leap. He could have just walked out or something, but he took a chance. So good on him. Good for David.
Mhm.
Phoebe takes a break, and I wanted to ask your thoughts on this. We go over to the girls' apartment, and they're decorating the Christmas tree. It seems to me that maybe David, there's quite a gap because I think that David and Phoebe have been on several dates.
6.
Is 6, yeah, same as Rachel. So let's say they went out every couple of days, which is quite frequent. That would still put it at what, at least 2 weeks between, Phoebe singing in Central Park and them decorating the tree.
Mhm.
Um, I don't, I mean, which is fine, of course, but that's quite a large gap for the beginning of an episode.
I
Um,
agree. Well, okay. and it's funny that you bring that up because then I was like, how much time has actually passed? Because
Right.
the previous episode was Thanksgiving. And so we know,
Right.
so you've got like a month there from, well, a month and a week typically, depending on how late, like Thanksgiving this year was super late. So I think there was 4 weeks between.
Right.
And so I thought the exact same thing because I'm like, if they're decorating the tree and they're already planning for New Year's and that's a week after Christmas.
Yeah, you're absolutely. It just occurred to me as you were talking. You're absolutely right. We've gone from potentially a couple of weeks before they're decorating the tree, so they're going to decorate the tree, but obviously before Christmas. You would think at least a week or two, all the way to New Year. This is maybe one episode that's taking up a month.
Uh-huh. That's
Yeah,
exactly right.
that's
And nobody really talks about Christmas other than at the very beginning whenever ugly naked guy is hanging the candy canes. And
yep.
then and then they're decorating the tree and we know that everything's decorated for Christmas, but like
Now
nothing.
hold on a second here. Ugly naked guy hanging candy canes is not something I saw.
Oh,
I
yeah,
don't believe
at the very beginning, and this would be one of the things on that.
one of the
That's what I have
DVD to
pulled.
streaming things.
That was one of my links that I have pulled up is that website that tells me
Yes.
that the blue is on my DVD, but nowhere else. It's the text in blue are scenes that were originally cut from the original airing of the show. Uncut episodes appear in Friends' complete first season, and that's what I've got. But
Interesting. I believe there's another one, but we'll see.
yeah, but at the very beginning, right before he walks in. Oh, and we didn't even talk about Monica's response to. She seemed scared of Marcel, right? Like
So that's
legitimately scared.
I'm really glad you brought that up because again, this is something Kate brought up. She's like, they don't address the fact that Monica is scared. My perception of it was she associates the monkey with just making her apartment dirty.
Which
But that doesn't mean I'm
okay,
right, of course. But Kate saw it the way you say it. She you see it. She saw almost like a fear of this monkey, which is probably fairly legitimate. You know, the monkey in your house is
hmm
good to cause alarm. But it's funny, I didn't see it like that until she brought it up, and now you bring it up, and I get it. I think you might be onto something.
yeah. See, I wonder. I wonder. I don't know. We'll pay attention as the episodes continue on because I
Hmm.
wonder if there won't be something just kind of dropped that if you're not looking for it, you wouldn't necessarily. Like, for example, the poster. Like, the poster jumped
Right,
out at you because we just spent all that time talking about it.
right. And now if
Where,
we focus on Marcel,
uh huh.
what
Or
like you with
Monica's
Gunther?
fear of monkeys or small animals or something.
Yeah,
I don't
like
know.
we're going back to when we recorded our first episode together,
Mhm.
bringing up Gunther in the background. I'm now looking for him all the time and seeing him all the time when I didn't notice him before.
Yeah,
So
isn't that funny? So
yeah, I
so cool.
think
Go
my
ahead.
father-in-law, what does he call it? Something like white car syndrome. Like, because he was looking to purchase a white truck, and he said, "Now that's all you see subliminally." You know, this. I'm sure it's got a scientific name, but
Yeah.
yeah, it's interesting. But let's see. So Chandler then announces that he's invited Janice, which they said was the worst breakup, but it wasn't, right? Because Phoebe, I mean, it was in one sense because of all the espressos and things he was drinking, but it ended fairly well, right?
I did because
Because
Matt was like,
yeah,
"Oh, bye."
Phoebe, that's we
Yeah,
should
but
always break up together.
Chandler was a whole dumpster fire during that thing.
That's true.
You know.
Yes,
So I'm sure to him it did not it all ended well, but it did not feel great while it was happening.
that's true. That's true. But I was just thrilled. I'd forgotten that she came back in this episode, so when we rewatched it, I was thrilled to hear her name again. But then Joey comes in this amazing elf costume.
Yes,
Um, Clearly, you have a little shoe envy, but that's okay.
just a little.
But they are fantastic, and I do love Chandler's. I just wrote down his brain misfires. You know that they just
Just
can't
too
get
much.
out too much. He's got to, usually his jokes are quite clever, but this is just too on the nose. I feel like it's too easy to make fun of somebody dressed the way Joey is.
Okay, but can we talk about how Chandler is dressed in that scene?
With
In that
that,
pinky
yes,
purple fuchsia sweater vest that's half
it's
unbuttoned.
and too big for him, and like, what is that?
I
Yeah,
don't know, and it looks all stretched out. It reminds me of like
yeah,
being at my grand's house, like dressing up as a
right.
kid. You know, like
It's funny. I
what?
thought about putting that down as a question, but I was like, "There's no way you didn't notice this."
Yeah.
You
Well,
know,
I was trying to count the buttons because I wanted to ask a question about it too.
right. It is a monstrosity. I don't know what he was thinking with that, or even the wardrobe people, who dress him.
Yeah.
That's just not a good look, even for 1992. That's not good. But one you brought up the officer and the gentleman that Phoebe brings up. Now I guess maybe it is the kind of film that's shown throughout the years, but that came out in 1982, so it'd been out for a decade.
Mhm.
But maybe I've never seen it. But I know it's a classic. But is it the kind of thing that might be shown at Christmas time every year at certain places? No, I
No,
mean I don't know.
it's like, but what I envisioned whenever she said that is that it was probably like a special screening of something. It would be like Valentine's Day, you
Right?
know.
Okay, it's a love
It
story. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's like one of those. Um and I saw it as a child. I don't really remember a whole lot about it except for the scene where he goes in the factory
Right.
at the
Okay.
end. Like that's the part I remember. But I would think that it was probably like a special screening or something that
Right.
she went on
Yeah.
a date with the guy too.
Very romantic.
Mhm.
Let's see. Marcel, he starts playing with the spatulas, and good old Chandler offers to go and check in on him, but he has to make sure he's not doing it like a favor to Ross. You know,
But if he asks, I'm not going to
not
lie.
gonna lie, right?
But what? I want to hate on Ross, but I don't even know what to. It's just so over the top and silly and just come on, man. Are you
Right,
even
you're
thinking
overthinking this.
right?
Yeah.
I Are you even hearing the words that you are saying?
Well, we jump from there. We go back to the science lab where Phoebe asks David if he's going to kiss her, and I kind of again, I like this character, David.
Mhm.
He's clearly just smitten with Phoebe, even after what do we, 6 dates. Maybe this is the seventh, and he
Mhm.
just wants it to be amazing. And yeah, we've discussed Marvin the Martian, the microscope. This a very small old laptop. But
Mhm.
good on him for sweeping things off the table, including the Chinese food, which was
Yes.
going to make a mess. This wasn't just papers.
Right.
So I like the fact that he did take the expensive stuff off, but didn't worry about the food. Chinese food be damned. It was us. What was your take on that scene?
Just so awkward. He's just so
Hmm.
awkward and sweet. But yeah, but he followed through, and then he's like, "Do you want to just hop up on the
Right.
table?" And yeah, just smitten. Like that's just a
Yes.
nice way to say it. It's I don't know. I just think it's sweet. Uh, Spoiler alert. Well, never mind. You'll see. Who
We'll
my God,
come. We'll
my
get to it.
yeah, we'll get to it. But I do. I really like him. And
Yes. Well, unfortunately, though, in the next scene at Central Park, let's see, Monica announces that she's invited Fun Bobby. I love Chandler's line of "I happen to know a Fun Bob more than I should." I just find that line like because it's said with sincerity. Like I'm sure he's lying, but you kind of you buy it. Like how dare you question him? I
right.
happen to know a
Uh-huh.
Fun Bob. Like doesn't everyone? Um, Ross again. Ross is doing Ross things. Sorry, Katie Condren. About him and Marcel not getting along. Um, I did find this a bit funny. Chandler talks about he juggles the socks and
Uh-huh.
then mentions a melon, or
Uh-huh.
a watermelon. That monkey's not juggling a watermelon.
It could have been like a cantaloupe or I
Okay,
didn't think like a big melon. I would
okay.
thought like a small.
You're
Like,
thinking the small one. Okay.
mm.
Yeah, and I did think, well, maybe he's just kind of shoving things around the table in a sort of juggling fashion. But I like this the mental image of Marcel actually juggling. I think
Oh
that'd be.
yeah.
Have you
Uh-huh.
ever juggled? Can you juggle?
Ah, I am actually learning to juggle right now.
That's very well. I didn't even write that question down to ask you. It just came to me. That's very exciting.
Yeah, so okay, whenever last summer, going back to seasonal work,
Yes.
last summer, my younger son and I went to the local theme park, and they had like open casting call for Halloween. And so I was like, that sounds like a really fun thing to do. Let's go check that out. So I
Right.
went and I auditioned, and I ended up auditioning all by myself because I did it at the end of the day. And
Right.
so I was talking with the people that whenever I auditioned for Christmas, like you go in with a group of 15, and then they tell all 15 of you to do all these crazy things, and then they come up and they interact with you like while you're doing it. Okay. But
Right.
because of when I auditioned for Halloween, I was all by myself, so I'm just chatting with them, and they were like, "Do you have any special skills?" And I was like, like, no, I, I, I,
Right.
I have performed in dance mobs recently,
Indeed, you
but
have.
I was
Yes.
like, I don't sing, like, I don't, no, I don't.
Right.
So one of the guys, he says, "So do you juggle anything like that?" And I was like, juggle? Like, who in the world juggles? But I was like, no, but that sounds really great. And I'm going to learn to do it before next summer. So over Christmas break, so I worked Halloween, I worked Christmas, and then after
Right.
that, I ordered myself a juggling kit. And so I have like these things, and it's called Juggling for Dummies. And so I've
Right.
I've gotten the two and the swapping, but I can't get the third in just yet. So
Right.
it's a progressive learning thing. But my goal is
You
to
have
have it
got
by
this.
July.
You've got this.
Yeah.
Every faith in. Well, if you need some help,
Oh,
I happen to juggle.
do you really?
So this is gonna sound a little humble braggish, but I'll share it
Do
now.
it,
So
brag.
I can
This is
juggle.
amazing.
I used to have luminous glow in the dark juggling clubs, but then I ran over one in a car, so they had to throw them out. But I can juggle clubs. And one time, I've got juggling rings. I can juggle rings. One time I juggled fire,
What?
which is exactly the same as juggling clubs, but you just light the special ones where you light the end. But it's exactly the same. It's just mental. It's
Oh,
just
yeah, and you're on fire. Oh
well, you could
my gosh.
be.
I'm so
Yeah,
excited. I'm so
yeah. I
excited.
could
So you can teach me.
I can teach you. I can, yeah, and three juggling balls or whatever is my limit. I know the theory of doing four, but I've never cared enough or given it enough time to do the four. But I can certainly do two in one hand and then three, and then I can juggle. Do some very simple tricks with the three.
That's
So
neat.
next time we're to get together, we'll be at a restaurant. The four of us go out and we'll get oranges or
Yeah.
nectarines
Now
in
I do
honor of
carry
friends and
around
all.
my juggling like little ball things at
There
all
we go.
times.
This is
I
it
travel. I am
done.
prepared.
You're the traveling juggler. I love it.
No, the traveling juggler in training, just looking
Yeah,
for somebody to teach me.
yeah, you've got this. All right, we'll have to have more of this discussion. I love it. I can't even remember why we're discussing this. I've gone so far off track. Oh, Marcel was juggling. That was it. Yeah, this is DeeAnn juggling podcast. It's become. That's awesome.
I love it.
All right, we'll do that. But yeah, Marcel can juggle. That's right. And poor old Ross feels like he's missing out again, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Um,
Marcel can even tell that Ross is a sad sack. I believe you called him.
that's why I call him. That's the adjective for me. He's sad sack Ross. Let's see. But let's see. At that point, this is to me, it's the biggest faux pas in the show. Max comes in. He's looking for David. They got the grant. They're off to Minsk. At this point in history, Minsk isn't in Russia,
Okay, so Minsk isn't
right?
in Russia now, right? Because it's in
Correct.
Belarus. Or
Correct. As
okay,
of 1991, when the USSR broke up, and there was a grey, messy period, but 1991 is when Minsk became officially part of Belarus when the
okay,
Soviet Union broke up. So I did a shallow dive. It wasn't a deep dive, and of course, the consensus seemed to be online that they'll have known this because it'll have been in the news recently. But a lot of people might not know where Belarus is, so they said Russia because people would picture that as far away, Eastern Europe, cold, kind of desolate, isolated. That's perhaps the connotation of Russia. Um, and not a big city in Russia. Or why? That surely it was deliberate, but what would be the reason?
yeah,
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah,
Because I was
yeah.
Yeah, but I did this. I did not. My dive was even shallower than yours
Right.
because I was like, Minsk is in Russia, and where is Minsk? And I'm like, Belarus. I know that that's not part of Russia, and that's as far as I went. Is because it is near the border.
Right.
Belarus and Russia do touch each other. But there you go. And so 1991, and this episode aired in 90 what? 4?
Four. I'm assuming it was at the end of '94. I didn't write down
What?
the date.
December 15th,
There we
94.
go.
Okay.
So, yeah, again, I feel like it wouldn't have been a mistake. But then why wouldn't they just choose another city in Russia? Why'd they stay with Minsk? If they wanted that perception of Russia being very cold and isolated or something. I don't know.
Mhm.
So maybe we'll look into that. Maybe we'll find out. But of course, poor Phoebe, a little heartbroken, but she shows up to congratulate David. And then Max has a very little hissy fit, but a hissy fit nonetheless when he says they're not going because he wants to stay and make out with his girlfriend. I was going to write down the name of the three people they're going to work with as a question, but I forgot.
Oh, and I wrote down two of them, but I couldn't understand the third because
Right?
it was Lipson Yamaguchi, which I thought was weird because I remember Yamaguchi being
Yes.
being the ice skater.
Yes.
Do you remember her?
I know the name. I know
Yeah.
that's an ice skater.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think it was Christina Yamaguchi, and she was a fabulous ice skater.
Yes.
But
And
anyway,
I feel like the other, yeah, there was another shorter name, but I don't remember what it is either.
yeah.
But you can see Phoebe's face is, in my perception, as her face sort of lights up, but she's still conflicted.
Uh-huh.
But it lights up because she gets to spend more time with David.
Mhm.
And then at that point, we kind of go to really what ends up being the very long final scene. We're kind of in the girl's apartment. I think the rest of this episode.
Yeah.
Um, Joey's date, what was her name? Was Sandy. Sandy brings her kids. I thought they might name the kids, but I don't think they did. I don't think the
Nope.
kids got named. In case I forget to mention it, I think Joey tucking the kids in on the couch was a very sweet moment, which is near the end of
Oh,
the episode, because I thought he was going to tuck them in and then say something. Now, right, where's the mother? Or something
right.
kind of lewd and distasteful. But he seemed like a very sweet. I don't know. To me, I saw a slightly different side of Joey. We're jumping ahead a bit, but
Yeah. Well,
I
even
like that.
whenever he's like the mom's saying all that stuff to him, and he's like, and then he looks at the kids and he's just like, "Oh." He,
Yeah,
he Joey's a good guy.
he's
He
a. I,
really is, you
I
know?
think he's the most loyal of them all, and to his friends. It's the best relationships.
Yeah.
I think overall. Thinking of the series as a whole, but yeah, he's just a good guy. He's a good guy. I think he gets a bit of a bad rap as for using women, which
Mhm.
he certainly does at times. But I also imagine that he's not really most of the time tricking women. He's like, "This is who I am," and they're probably like, "Okay."
Yeah.
There are times we know he's tricked him, but I
Yeah.
don't know. I think he's a good guy. I like Joey.
Mhm.
But then Rachel comes in looking pretty dirty and beaten up.
Yes.
Um,
Oh.
This is, and what does she call the? It's a great description. I
A
think she calls her.
blonde. What does she call her?
Is it a planet with a pocketbook?
Yeah, a blonde
Which is a great
planet with a
visual.
pocketbook.
That's right. I'd forgotten the blonde. Yes,
Yeah.
great visual. That one.
Eh,
Um,
yeah, but what a crazy thing. And then, oh, and I was going to ask you, do you know how Rachel split her lip?
because the lady, what does she do with that? Does she? Oh, it's on her whistle. It's when she. It's on her emergency whistle, isn't it?
Yeah. And then all the
Now,
other cabs show up and
yeah. And I have two questions for you about this scene. The one thing I thought was odd was the flight from Rome to New York is going to be something like 7 or 8 hours, maybe 6 or 7, in that range anyway.
Mhm.
How did he not call her when he missed the flight hours before she would have to go to the airport? Like,
Uh,
you know,
yeah, because he sucks.
he does. He does. We're not a Paolo fan. But I
No.
guess he just didn't bother to call her, which,
Yeah, which is so crazy.
yeah, plenty of time for him to call. But
Wow.
yeah,
Yeah, I didn't even think
yeah,
about that she was on her way to go and get him at the airport.
yeah.
And
And
then
he
she got
knew,
there, he didn't get off the plane.
yeah, and he will have known at least 6 or 7 hours prior to that moment that he
Wow.
wasn't on the plane.
Yeah.
We don't like him. We
Wow.
don't like Paolo.
No, boo.
Boo to
Paolo,
Paolo.
boo.
Now, I believe, I don't know this, but I've read that this is where
Yeah.
there's an additional scene on the DVD where they kind of help
They're
get
in
Rachel together or something.
Yeah, so they're in so she came in, she's all dirty. Well then her and Monica and Phoebe are in Rachel's room and she's changed and they're trying to do her makeup for her. She's trying to do her makeup and her eye is swelling
Right.
shut. And then Monica's like here, because they were saying that she went a little wide on her eyeliner. And so Rachel go or Monica goes to like put it on for her and she's like, ow, ow, ow. And she's like, oh, it's fine. You're great. And they get
Right.
up to go out and like Rachel it starts walking the wrong way in the teeny tiny room. And it's like, man, I think Rachel might have a concussion or something. Like she was not
Interesting.
okay.
Right. Yeah, this is a scene that I've never seen. Is this the first time we see Rachel's bedroom? I'm not
Maybe
sure,
so, because I know whenever
Mm,
she goes to move out, you go in there
right.
and she's just has all this stuff. But I mean, it's just she's just sitting at a vanity, and then you see the bed
Right.
in the background. It's teeny tiny, and there's nothing
Teeny
there.
tiny.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but it might be. I was just thinking it through because Kate and I had a discussion about whether there was a window on her wall, and we couldn't remember if we'd seen that before, and there is. We see
Oh,
it in this episode. Um, but yeah, so that was. I wanted to make sure I asked you about that extra scene on the DVD. I'm going to just go and buy the whole set at some point. I saw them at Walmart this morning, and it was like $50 for all of it. It's like I'm just going to have to pick that up.
huh.
I think that needs to happen. But let's see. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Oh no! Did I look like I was going to say something?
I thought you might.
Well, okay. What window
Yes.
are y'all talking about? In Rachel's room?
Yes. Sort of opposite the door. There's just a window that goes to the outside.
Yeah,
And I didn't think there was a window. And then we were trying to remember if we'd seen one in this rewatch.
yeah.
But it looks like there is.
It seems like there should be
Yes.
because there's one
And
in everybody else's room.
right, and there is one in Monica's room. So yeah, it makes logical sense.
Right. But
Um,
you can't see it in that scene
okay, you see
because
it in the next scene that you're in there.
okay.
With Phoebe and David. You can just you don't see through it or anything, but you can see it sort of off to the side.
Oh,
Um,
that's right. Okay, I forgot about Phoebe and David going in there and Phoebe having
yeah,
her one-sided, two-sided conversation.
right. which again, we'll get to that. That's a beautiful. I love that moment too.
No.
Um, let's see, Fun Bobby shows up. Well, he's let's see, yeah, Fun Bobby shows up. Let's see. Sorry, I've lost track of my notes. He's not very fun. His poor old grandfather died. Um, I looked into him. I didn't recognize him from anywhere else. His name is Vincent Vitresca, and he's still in acting to this day. And he's done bits and pieces in lots of things like Criminal Minds. He was in Blossom, Fresh Prince of Bel Air. Just one or two things here and there, like an episode here, episode there. But I don't know, it might be a coincidence or not. He was in, and I've never seen this. I think it's Michelle and Romney's high school reunion,
You've
which
never
was
seen Michelle and Romy's high school?
no. But I
Ow.
think that Lisa Kudrow's kind of breakout film. Is that it?
I don't
Or
know that
she's
that's her breakout film,
okay,
but
but she was in it.
that's an excellent movie. Yeah, like
Okay,
her and oh, what's the other girl? The other girl. I don't know why I can't think of her name right now. But that movie is hilarious and amazing and awesome.
okay.
It is.
I've got some homework.
Yes,
Okay,
like it is
all
worth
right,
your time to watch. It's so ridiculous and amazing. Like
all
it's
right.
it's it's a good one. It's a good one.
Okay, that is on the list. Well, he sadly brings all the mood down, and then Chandler snaps again and has
Wait,
to. Oh, go ahead. Yep, yep,
wait.
yep. Yep.
We're gonna
Yes.
stop right there because there's a cut scene that happens, and I watched it and I was like, my goodness, like what a jerk! This seems so out of left field.
Right.
Um, but Monica grabs him, and so it's in the blue lines. So you're gonna have to tell me if this was on your watch, if you did
Okay.
see this. But he's sitting, and she's like, Fun Bobby, come over here. And so she brings him over to the side, and she tells him that basically he's bringing the vibe down of the party.
No.
And then she puts a horn blower thing in his
Yeah.
mouth and it's like, so if you could just pep it up, you're ruining the party.
No,
Uh
that was
huh.
not on Max where I'm streaming the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
Another. So that's
And
what
it
three
seems
things.
a way
Yes.
out of character for Monica,
Right.
especially because she's normally so understanding and
Well, we were
she even
singing our
says I
praises.
just recently
Yes.
lost a grandparent and I understand you're sad, but you're ruining the party.
Yeah, yeah. Just
Uh
last
huh.
week, we were singing our praises for being so understanding in the Thanksgiving episode and putting everybody else first.
Yes. And so
Yeah,
I was like, wow. So that explains why that got cut.
right. So yeah, so that's what three things. I think three things that are on the DVD this episode
Uh huh.
so far. That's yeah, we're gonna have to get it. Well, Max announced that he's again. I love Phoebe. Max Yoko. And Max announces, let's see, that he's going. Oh, sorry. I want to talk about Chandler breaking up with Janice. Um, yeah, Chandler snaps. There was something interesting, and I read this online. I would love to say I spotted it myself, but I didn't. I read it online and went back and rewatched. You can see at least one time when Janice walks away and Ross takes, I think, one final picture of Chandler. The scene is cut, and Chandler actually shifts in a split second slightly. If you go back and watch it, when Ross
Oh,
takes the
weird.
picture with the flash, Chandler shifts just a tiny bit across the screen,
Oh, how
enough to
weird.
where you can tell it's sort of spliced together. It's an odd moment,
Huh.
and you
It's a
don't.
glitch in the
I
matrix.
it's exactly what it looks like. I would never have noticed it unless I'd read it online and then went back and saw it. And now you can't unsee it, but it's exactly. It looks like a glitch in the matrix.
Huh.
But then Max says, yeah, he's going to Minsk alone without David. And then Phoebe pulls him aside into Rachel's room. And yeah, I like the way you said that, a one-way, two-way conversation.
Mhm.
Um, I think they're both genuinely heartbroken at this point.
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But he
yeah,
shows back up, so that's so good. And I think that
yes,
piece of knowing that he'll come back makes me like him even more, you know?
absolutely. It would have been a real shame if this had been sort of a one and done thing. I think there would have been a lot of wondering.
Yeah.
Um, I sort of think forward to what's his name? No spoilers, but Charlie Sheen's character who comes in for one episode, and they make it seem. Remember, he's like a sailor on a submarine.
Oh, yeah, and they get
You know,
chickenpox. Uh-huh.
he gets chickenpox, and it's funny in a great episode, but there's not that connection. This connection between if this had just been a one time thing,
Yeah.
I don't think it could have been. Like it had to be more
Yeah.
because of the way they played off each other. Um,
Yeah. So
but then, yeah, the ball is about to drop at this point. Again, jumping if I've skipped anything, so this is one kind of long scene, and nobody has anybody to kiss. But then Chandler has the great idea of three girls, three boys, and good on Joey. Good on Joey for making it happen.
me and
It,
okay.
are you like us? Are you like in bed at like 10 on New Year's Eve, or do you stay up?
No, we stay up.
You stay
So,
up. Good for you.
yeah, so before we had kids, I always liked to go out. Like I liked to
Right.
go out and then do things. I've been on in New York on in Times Square whenever the ball has dropped in 2006,
Really?
I believe.
Was it
Whenever
what
it
you
changed
hoped it
from
would
5
be?
to 6.
Yeah.
Well, no, and let me tell you, I learned
Right.
way more about New York and New Year's Eve and all of that. So, the big crowd that they always show like inside of the fence, like whenever all the confetti's falling and all of that at
Yes.
midnight, those people start getting there that morning.
They're there all day,
All
right?
day.
Just
And Al, once you get in and you get your place, if you leave, you lose your place. And so
right.
I was there with my friend Megan, and we're doing this. It's gonna be amazing. So we like go down there at like 10 o'clock in the morning. They've got the the fences set up and
Hmm.
everything, and so we go down there, and it starts snowing. And we are Texas girls, and I am quite sensitive. And my thought was that's going to be 14 hours. And I was like, well, let's like go shopping and do some other things, then we'll come back. So
Right.
we went and shopped and ate, and then we came back, and it's starting to fill up like a few hours later, and it's getting full. So we're like, okay, so like what happens? Well, if you leave to go use the restroom, and the thing about New York, like you can't just pop in somewhere and borrow their
Right.
restroom.
Right.
And so we're like, "Oh, geez." Well, um we decided that we weren't going to stand outside for all those hours. Like there were people that had like diapers, adult diapers, those people that are there all
Right.
day, and I'm like, yeah, like that. No, we're not going to do
I
that. So
no,
so
no.
we went and we bought tickets to there's a Hard Rock Cafe that's like right there on the
Right.
corner.
I have eaten there. Yes.
Okay. Well, we bought
Yes.
tickets and we went. They had the ESPN New Year's party there. So like we
Right.
met all these people that are like ESPN sportscasters and stuff. And we went
Right.
to the little party and we got 2 free drinks and free access to all the bathroom that we needed. And then right before midnight, we pretended like we were smokers and we went outside on the balcony and watched the ball drop, watched all the confetti, and
Perfect.
then went back inside. And so we were warm and it was a great time.
That sounds like a much better way to see it
I
than
felt very confident in my
yes.
life choices.
You reflect on that and you're like, that was a good decision.
That was a
That was
good
a that was a good
decision.
decision.
We had free appetizers, a couple of drinks, like it was a nice thing.
That's
Definitely
perfect.
worth it.
Good. I'm so glad. That's a great story.
Uh-huh.
Well, let's see. So yeah, Joey kisses Chandler at New Year's, which I love that one. I think it's just really funny. Um, and then I can't remember quite how it happens, but then it ends up with Rachel on the couch, and as you talked about, or she thinks that her tooth is cracked.
Yes.
Um, and I'm trying to. I can't. It's funny. I can't quite remember now how the episode actually ties up. I feel like it's with Rachel sitting on the couch.
Yeah, and then
Is that it?
Ross is crying about how what I wrote it down. It's so hard when something you love doesn't love you back, which
That's
I
right.
also thought was kind of funny. Like it makes me sad for this guy who's so sad for himself all the time, but like he loves Carol, and then Carol doesn't love him back the same way. He loves
Right.
Rachel, and then now even Marcel.
Even Marcel's becoming a self-fulfilling prophecy, I feel,
Right. Yes.
with Ross.
That's an
You know,
excellent thing to say. Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
But
come
yeah,
on,
it was
Ross.
great, and I'm always looking for brand new information. With every episode, let's see what can I dig into. And I thought, well, it seemed appropriate to dig into the character of Marcel a little bit.
Mhm.
Um, so Marcel appears in 8 episodes, and Marcel was actually played by two different female. I think it is Capuchin. I think I pronounce it Capuchin monkeys. One was named Katie, and the other was simply named Monkey, which I find kind of funny. That was the Capuchin monkey's name. It was just Monkey. Um, I don't quite know at what point, but Monkey passed away while they were filming. So certainly the
Oh.
last couple of episodes are just Katie. Is what I believe. The article I was reading was a little vague. It could have been the monkey passed away after Friends and Katie was in other things. Um, that actually, now I'm thinking about this again, might be the case because Katie appeared in a show called The Loop, which I don't know, and 30 Rock, which I've heard of, but I don't think I've ever seen an episode. But Katie the monkey appears in those two shows.
How
Um,
fun.
But I thought this was quite interesting. So David Schwimmer hated filming with the monkeys because he said that he kind of lost a bit of artistic freedom because the trainers had to dictate how everything was done, how many takes, when they shot, when they couldn't shoot, things like that. But then the animal trainer who worked on Friends was interviewed by the newspaper The Sun and called David Schwimmer despicable and said that he was jealous that Marcel was so popular and made the fans laugh. Um, which
Wow.
which I find interesting. I don't, who knows what the truth is there. Um, but Schwimmer obviously didn't like filming with the monkeys, but that doesn't, to me, translate as being jealous or anything. But very much two sides to the story. But Matt LeBlanc really did like working with the monkeys. He said they were tons of fun. He's an animal guy, and that they were really, really cool to have on set. He did an interview in 2019 on Jimmy Kimmel,
Huh.
and said that filming with the Capuchin monkeys was a really great experience. But I might look a little bit more into these two sides of the story between the animal trainer and David Schwimmer.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wa-
Yeah,
hmm. Have you ever like gotten to be up close and personal with a monkey like that?
I don't think so.
No.
I don't think so.
See.
Um, I mean, I'm trying to think of any animal of note that I've gone up close with. I mean, just things like I've swam with dolphins once on a honeymoon, which was super cool.
Aww.
That was an experience of a lifetime. And then some stingrays, and have held some snakes and things, but nothing too like a monkey. That's a whole different sort of level of things.
I don't know.
Um,
I think swimming with dolphins, that sounds pretty wild.
that was pretty cool. Long
Yeah.
story short, we went to Disney World for our honeymoon 10 years ago. And on the way back, we stopped off in the town in Florida called Seaside. And it was really close to Panama Beach. And we got it was a boat that sits, I don't know, 10 people, takes you out for a few hours to go dolphin seeing, and then you can hop in the water. The coolest thing was the water's crystal clear, and it was, I don't know, 10 meters deep. So you could, from floating on the top, you could see the bottom. And you would just see these dolphins flying along the bottom. Like you forget that they're all down there too. They're not just leaping out the water. But
Yeah.
anyway, super, super cool.
How
But
neat.
yeah, I don't think I've ever held a monkey of any sorts.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
awesome, man.
Yeah, that was a super, super. And again, not going off the tangent, I wear glasses, so I took my glasses off, so I couldn't see them as clearly because I wanted the snorkel thing. But
Right.
still a magical experience. It really was something. Um, but yeah, now Thinking about my Gunther Central Park for the week and thinking about yours, do you have a favorite character from this episode?
Yes, it's David.
Aha, so that was
Yeah.
going to be mine, but I went with Phoebe, and
Yeah.
I like the fact that we have both chosen David and Phoebe. I think that's
Yes.
quite fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Like
I think David's a great choice. But why did you pick him?
because he's just sweet. I think he's sweet and he's genuine and he just, like it's just romantic. The whole idea that, he sees her in this coffee shop and he is just smitten, and like
Absolutely,
and I don't know. I just like
he's a
that, and he's
great guy.
smart, smart and doing good things, doing good things.
Yeah, and it's funny, the things that I would say about Phoebe are very similar in a sense. Like, I love the fact that she was obviously taking an interest in his work. You know, she's not a physicist or scientist. She's quirky and artistic, but there was obviously she was making an effort to learn about that. Was it the particle accelerator and the theory? You know,
Hmm.
she's trying. And then with the breakup, I think she really puts him first.
Yeah.
I think it's a beautiful dynamic between the two of them. So I love that we chose one each because
Hmm.
that seems very fitting for this episode. But how would you rate this episode out of our infamous 10 coffee cups? Where's this going to fall for you?
So for this one, I would say it is a 8 coffee cups. 8. Because there was a lot of laugh out loud moments to me.
Yes.
There was also the fashion was noteworthy. How about that? How about we say
Yes,
that?
we'll call it noteworthy.
Noteworthy. And Janice was back.
We
David
love
is
Janice.
awesome. Like Fun Bobby is great. Like it was a good solid. I liked it a lot. So I would say
Yes.
8. Hmm.
I gave it exactly the same. And I was looking through my ratings. I've rated all the episodes so far this season, even the two that you and I didn't do together, but I put my ratings down. And I always I give the pilot an 8, not because it's a great standalone episode, but it's the pilot. So we get to
Right.
meet everyone. But my only other two eights are the one with the blackout and then
Yes.
this one, the
Yes.
one with the monkey. These are my two favorites so far.
Same.
I don't have any nines or tens. That's good. I like it. We're on the same page.
Yeah.
And there's other great ones coming up, but I love these two so far are the highlights for me.
Yes.
Um, it's yeah, really good. Go ahead.
Yeah, followed closely by the one where they go to the hockey game.
Yep, that's one of my couple of sevens. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's another great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it does start off strong. I
It
feel
I think it
as a
had
show.
to. It had to.
Yeah,
Otherwise it wouldn't hang on, It wouldn't hang
yeah,
on the way that it did.
yeah. There was a lot of big shows in the '90s and a lot of big things going on. Now we have one sort of piece of listener mail, and this is harking back to what episode is it that Joey? So the listener mail is my wife. She was listening to some of the podcast episodes, and it's the one where Joey says he plays Freud at the beginning, and then Chandler meets the Italian. Which one is that? That's
Hang on.
it's is it the one with the butt?
It is the
Is
one
it?
with the butt.
That's what I'm thinking. And I think we had said something about the fact that maybe this woman wanted a sex change, and that's why he was singing that song.
Yes.
Well, apparently Freud was a very big believer, and excuse the language, listeners, but in penis envy. He really bought into this theory that all women had a degree of penis envy, ranging
Oh.
from not very much to all consuming. Like he, as a psychologist, he genuinely believed this, and that this fueled women's behavior. Which I don't know how Kate knew this, and maybe that's more questions to be asked. But she ended up googling it, and she's like, "Yeah, see, like that's what the song was about. It was about him blaming all of or attributing all of women's psychological problems to the fact that fundamentally they have penis envy." And it is true. Like there is something to that. It's something he seemed to believe.
That's Weird.
So she said, I or, even though that's been 5 or 6 episodes ago, um, obviously we'll bring that up now. Um,
Yeah.
so
Weird.
yeah, not something I knew. But
Kate
on
is a
that note,
genius.
she is. She comes through pretty clutch once in a while with these things that it's funny. We joke all the time. There's things I know she's brilliant at, and then there's things that she will say I don't know anything about these things. But then she'll just know the most random. Oh, I know what the 16th element of the periodic table is.
Mhm.
Like she just just weird random things. Keeps things interesting. But let's see. Any final thoughts about this episode before we wrap it up?
No, but if I had a monkey, it would wear a diaper. I would just like to say that.
Yes, and that there is. I think Ross mentions that he changes its diaper, but then it doesn't have one on.
No, and
So I'm with you. I'm with you. If you're
yeah,
gonna have that kind of pet, that yeah,
put a
it
diaper
doesn't.
on it. Uh-huh.
Good words of wisdom as we wrap up this episode of the Purple Door
I'm just
podcast. I
saying,
like
here
it.
to help the world.
You are indeed. Well, next week we will be focusing on the one with Mrs. Bing. We get to see where some of Chandler's trauma comes from.
Yes.
So I'm excited to dive into that. But on that note, thank you guys all very much for listening to the Purple Door podcast.